injury news ahead of the game against Shakhtar tomorrow at home at the Emirates in the Champions League. A chance to bounce back after what was a disaster against Bournemouth. Let's call it as it is, a disastrous performance. Even before we went down to 10 men, Arsenal did not look at the races. Would it have been a different outcome with the red or without the red, should I say? I don't know. Maybe. Some people have argued that. Reality is, I don't think we were looking particularly good. And I think the red card was a red card. So here we are. We're here now trying to address all that ahead of Shakhtar. And I think there's some key players have been missing that can play a big part in that. Yes, essentially, I would expect we could almost put out the same 11. I wouldn't want to see that, but I think you could put out the exact same 11 and almost say to them, guys, you're the 11 I backed. Go show everyone what the plan was. If that's might be how Mikel Arteta might think. And you might say to them, go and prove to everyone, what you're about in this game against Shakhtar. But I actually think we've got to look more at not so much fixing what might not have got right against Bournemouth in terms of, trying to prove a point, and more so looking ahead at Liverpool and trying to think, well, what situation are we in come that game? And, I'm talking quite cryptically there, but what I mean is you could easily put Merino back in the right 8 or 10, if you want to call it that, and say, show everyone what you're about. You're the player I'm backing there. You could easily put Trossard back on the left. You could easily start William Saliba and say, look, you got a red card. You missed an hour of football on the weekend. We needed you to play. So go out there and show what you're about again against. Saliba doesn't need to show what he's about at home against Shakhtar. He doesn't need to do that. But you get what I mean. Go out there, play some football, and just get it out your system, what just happened on the weekend. But again, I think that would be too much worrying about what happened on the weekend. I think we need to look ahead to Liverpool and look at getting the combinations right for that game and use this as a bit of a trial run, because the Champions League is different this year. We are in a situation in which, and sorry, my laptop's just connected to something. I'm just going to make sure that corrects itself. There we go. Cool. We are in a situation where the Champions League being different means that we're playing 3 games. Sorry, we played 3 games. Well, this is the 3rd game, Shakhtar, and then there's 5 after that. So I'm not saying by any means that not winning this game is acceptable. It's absolutely not. But there's time to rectify. There's time to get that right. Or so we think. We don't really know how this format is going to play out towards the end of this kind of group or league phase. But the Premier League does feel like every single game is a case of that, Bournemouth could be the day we lost the title. Now, I don't think it is. That feels too far for me, but it could be. That's last season, right? We were looking back at things like that Fulham game at home or whatever it might be. And, all these big points in the Premier League feel really, really crucial. So I would be playing this Shakhtar game with Liverpool in mind. And that's why a big part of sort of the thumbnail for this video is, if Timber's fit, he's got to start. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to go through Mikel Arteta's press conference. We're going to go through some key discussion points. We're going to go through some key sort of updates in terms of injury news. Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard, Timber was talked about. We'll talk a little bit about what he said about Nwaneri, Saliba's red card, and whether Arsenal are going to appeal that, and a few other bits and bobs. We'll discuss it all here. But it is another live show, everyone. Sorry that we didn't drop a video today, but I just thought not so much has happened in the way of sort of massive conversation points. The match report, of course, is out there. If you've missed my thoughts on just what I think, what I thought of the game and the sort of key points from Bournemouth. I've been on Forever Arsenal as well, where I sort of talked about it in a little bit more detail. I just think what Arteta had to say today, and we can do this via a live show, is kind of the bits I really want to talk about today. But let's say hello to a load of you in the comments, and good to see you, Colapo. First, fair play to you, man. First in the comments. Prem point of view says, morning, gents. Morning. So where are you tuning in from, Prem Pov? Let me know. Morning. Maybe in the US, out on the west coast of the US, maybe. Max, who always does tremendous work for the channel. Everyone show Max some love. And it was a great birthday. Thank you, Max. Appreciate it. And thank you. I know a lot of you did actually. His Prem POV again. It was a good birthday. I was with my family yesterday. It was good fun. I have to say, as far as birthday weekends of football go, it might be the worst I've ever had. I mean, if you want to go back and dig up results we've had around the 20th of October over the few years, be my guest. But I remember we lost to Norwich 1-0 away. I think Grant Holt scored. That was bad. That was I think that was 2012 maybe. That was a dark Arsenal performance on my birthday. I remember, I think the day before we also beat. So the day before my birthday, like 2 years later, I think we beat Norwich at home when Jack Wilshere scored that, the 1-2 with Giroud. It wasn't just 1-2, it was like a 1-2-3-4-5. It was unbelievable. That was a great goal. Enjoyed that. Trying to think of other big performances. We beat Bayern Munich. We beat Bayern Munich 2-1. Giroud, I think, scored a header. 2-0 it was. Giroud scored a header and Ozil scored. That was on my birthday. So, yeah, I also have pulled out some big performances and results on my birthday before. But, yeah, this one certainly wasn't one. And the reason I said it was one of the worst was because City ended up scoring the 95th minute to win their game against Wolves. And I didn't think they looked that impressive on the day. And dare I say, Liverpool, I thought looked okay. I didn't think they looked amazing against Chelsea at all. But then we probably have to credit Chelsea more there because they actually played quite well. But, basically all 3 games went the wrong way. But that's fine. There's bigger things in life. More comments coming in. Really hope they'll be okay for the Liverpool game. That's going to be massive. It's going to be absolutely huge. Totally agree. Sorry, different kind of live show. We're 6 minutes in and we're kind of doing a lot of the fluffy chat. But we'll go into everything in good time. Just thought I'd, acknowledge all of you who are live with me. I know a lot of people catch the show later, and I appreciate that a lot. But a lot of you are live, and yeah, it's good to chat to you all. Clint says, "Thank you for being up. No problem. I'll always try to be honest. I'm not sure what I was particularly honest about, but thank you. Appreciate it." So this came up. A few people were saying Merino was terrible on his debut. Tom also saying it's one of the worst debuts I've seen. I didn't think Merino was terrible. I didn't think he was great, but like he nearly scored. Slight deflection. Does that maybe creep in if without it? But it feels like it's probably always going wide. Did some good off the ball work. And actually basically should have had an assist, right? I mean, it's his touch, the way he kind of drags it onto his left foot, one touch, and then rolls it into Martinelli with his second. Okay, he wasn't fantastic. Don't get me wrong. He was having to drift out to the right and do an Odegaard style, which I don't think suited him. And he's not a natural creator, but he created the biggest chance of the game for Arsenal, and probably the biggest chance of the game. Semenyo had a good opportunity a bit before that. But no, Merino wasn't great. I wouldn't have given him more than a 5, but he certainly wasn't bad for me. I don't think he was terrible, but yeah, other people saw it differently. Where's the robot Hoover? He's there. His name's Lenny. And he's been behaved, so hopefully he doesn't just go on a run for no reason. I think it was 20 past 6 this time last week. So yeah. Anyway, Nwaneri needs to start tomorrow. That's what a lot of people are wanting to see, and we'll discuss that. I don't play fantasy football. Sorry. I always just fall out of it quite quickly. As in, I'll start it and I don't really know what I'm talking about, and then I lose interest. So yeah, apologies. Yeah, I think we've got some more comments. We'll go into all those in a little bit. Yeah, well, for example, this kind of comment. What I think of Arteta's use of Nwaneri. We'll go into all that. And hey, Ford on Football, everyone go subscribe to Ford on Football. Thank you, mate. I super appreciate that. Right. I've been waffling on for 8, 9, 10 minutes chatting to you guys. I think we can go into the meat of the live show and what we're kind of here to talk about. So let's bring this up on screen. It is the press conference. And look, quite a little bit was chatted about. We won't go through all of it, but what I'll do is I'll just quickly, double check the questions, and then we'll talk about everything that I think is important to note. So this was all around Timber, this and this bit. So I hope that's big enough, people. If it's not, let me know. I don't actually know what more I could do, but I think probably a little something I can change. Anyway, so on how close Timber is to playing. Now, this is the big one for me, everyone. He says, I think he's going to be close. Also, we have to see how he deals with training with the whole group because he hasn't done that yet, but he will be pretty close, hopefully. And then he says it was a muscular injury, so nothing to do with the knee injury that he sustained a year ago. And then he had I think they called it a load-bearing injury, where he was doing sort of maybe the exercise that caught up to him in pre-season, which meant he missed a little bit of pre-season football. I think he was back for Villa. But yeah, anyway, no, he wasn't. He came on the first day, didn't he, against Wolves? Anyway, what do I make of all this? So, as you saw my thumbnail, I said that Timber has to start. Now, of course, this is with the caveat of he needs to be fit. If he's even 99%, you don't do it. Like, there are bigger games, and we don't need to be risking Jurriën Timber if he's not fit. So I really want that to be out there. But I think my bigger point is, whoever the starting centre-back pair has to be come Sunday, I think they have to start this game. Now, I've referenced this a few times, and you know what? I'm going to keep referencing it because it was a nice little checkbox moment. When I asked Mikel Arteta in the only press conference and the only question I've ever asked him, why he was playing White right back and Timber centre back in pre-season, he actually spoke. What he talked about? He mentioned two things: not disturbing the dynamic of White, Odegaard, Saka, and the combination on that right hand side, but he also talked about the demands of playing right back being heavier than the demands at centre back. Now, with Odegaard missing and Saka having not played the last game, I don't think you can worry about the dynamics being ruined if you play Timber right back, who, by the way, has played there and been fantastic. But also, I think now that Timber is back up to fitness, I think you could play him right back and revert White to centre back, where he played a whole campaign with Gabriel. For familiarity's sake, I would go with that. You could easily play Timber centre back because he's a wonderful player, and I thought he looked really good in pre-season at centre back. But I would go for White centre back and Timber at right back if that option is there. Now, a lot of people are thinking, well, Saliba's not banned for this game. Why not play him anyway? Because at this point, you're not going to play him against Preston. So you're probably looking at 2 weeks between. They basically would have played, what was it, Southampton at home. 2 weeks later, he plays half an hour against Bournemouth. 2 weeks later, he'll be playing, who is it? Chelsea, Newcastle away, I think it is. Is it Newcastle or Chelsea? It's Newcastle. So I understand that basically means that there's almost a whole month between William Saliba's last 90 minutes completed for Arsenal. Therefore, get it in the Shakhtar game. But I really think, like I mentioned in the intro of the show, that we need to be preparing for what's to come against Liverpool. We need partnerships getting used to each other. We need players getting those minutes alongside each other, building relationships and understanding the position once more. Because Ben White hasn't played there for 2.5 years. He hasn't. It was the 21-22 campaign when he was last a starting centre-back for us. I think he's played the odd minute here and there at centre-back. He actually started, I lie. I'm talking about when he was a regular at centre-back. He actually started last season when Gabriel was out the team playing centre-back alongside Saliba, and they just adjusted the dynamics a little bit. But ultimately, Ben White has barely played much football at centre-back. I would get him there alongside Gabriel so that they are ready for Liverpool this Sunday. And by the way, for what it's worth, I think that is a partnership good enough to win against Liverpool on the weekend at centre-back. For me, it is. There's no doubt we're better with Saliba, but I rate Ben White highly, and I would be still confident. My expectations don't change drastically just because White's playing and not Saliba, however highly I rate Saliba. Now, again, a lot of people go, okay, but this is still the Champions League. You've still got to treat this seriously. But again, are we saying Ben White's not a good enough player to play centre-back at home against Shakhtar in the Champions League? Now, maybe you could do a few things. Maybe you could start with Saliba, bring him off with 30 to go, and then give them 30 minutes ahead of Liverpool. But I wouldn't do that. I'd start them from the beginning, give them a proper game state to kind of get their minutes together. And yeah, like I said, Timber at right back. Now, if Timber's not fit, this becomes interesting and a lot more of a debate for me, because I said on the preview that's just come out on AFTV that I would play Kivior. I'd play Kivior at centre back with Gabriel, with White right back, if that's the situation we're in. Come the weekend, that's probably what we're going to have to do again to get, for the same reasons, get the minutes in Kivior and Gabriel together. Now, this is now a bit more of a problem for me than I kind of first thought, because if Timber isn't quite fit for this game, I mean, what's he said? He said he's going to be close. He's close for this one. He's almost definitely available for the weekend. That's on Sunday. There's a good 5-6 days after. He will be pretty close. He's telling us that Timber isn't far off. So if he doesn't make this game, I'm confident he's okay for Sunday against Liverpool. But if then if he is fit for Sunday against Liverpool, that I'm still playing White at centre-back and I'm giving Timber the starter right back, but then playing Kivior on the Champions League would have been for nothing. And so in that situation, I'm actually more inclined to say, we'll play Saliba anyway then, because at that point, let's not, risk too much. I think Kivior's still an okay player, perfectly fine player, but he struggled the other day, and I wouldn't be taking too many risks. I just think Ben White's good enough for you to kind of roll the dice a little bit in that situation. So that's where it becomes interesting. If Timber's not fit, to sum up, because I've been waffling on, that's what these live shows are, but that's what you're here for, eh? If during Timber is fit to start against Shakhtar, then for me, it's White, Timber, Gabriel. And we'll talk about the left back in a sec. If Timber's not fit, but he's going to be fit on Sunday, then for me, it's White, Saliba, Gabriel. If Timber isn't fit for this and he's not going to be risked with the first start on Sunday against Liverpool, then I would go with White, Kivior, Gabriel. Are you following me? You will get my point. You'll get my point. Let's get your thoughts on all that before we go to the rest of the comments. You could put Josh Nichols right back, but very young player who I think still needs games like Preston. By the way, I don't think Preston's going to be easy at all. I think these games, when you're playing sort of sides in the Championship, but away from home, they can be really kind of nasty games. Here we go. Wilmar says, but on the other hand, James, doing so won't it give clues to Liverpool about our style and strategies come Sunday? Yeah, but like we have clues about what they're going to do. I mean, every week teams and analysts from oppositions will know what we're trying to do. We'll have a good idea, as we will, about them. Really, I just think you want to go into the best form and worry about yourselves, especially when you're the home team. But I sort of get your point. Ricard says, James Saliba's got to play because there's no need risking Timber. But this is kind of what I mean. I apologies, Ricard, that the comment might have come in before I said what I'm about to say, which I said earlier. If he's 99%, I don't risk it. But if he's fully fit, ready to go, you play him. And that's where it's a difficult one for them to judge. And I think that was probably the situation with Saka. I think Saka, and I'm just guessing, right? I think Cecil said some stuff on the preview about him being okay, and he'd heard he was okay. But I can imagine Saka was 99% for the Bournemouth game, something like that. He probably could play. If it was the Champions League final, he'd have played. But actually, it wasn't worth risking him. And that might have been a sensible call, but we didn't look very good without him, did we? So this has done the rounds that Timber's not even training. We don't know that. I mean, you know, what did Arteta say here? Yeah, we have to see how he deals with training with the whole group. So the intention was for him to train. So he might have done. It's just not been seen in pictures. Oh, you're in Australia, right? So you're not back in time. You're in the future. How is the future? Let us know. Do Arsenal win? Do Arsenal win the league? Thanks, man. Appreciate you tuning in. And whereabouts in Australia? I've got loads of friends who live in Australia. Apparently, it's incredible. I've got friends in Sydney. You know who you are. I've got friends in Melbourne, and I really want to go visit. It looks incredible. And I'm sure the Arsenal fan base, well, we've seen footage of Arsenal fans out in Australia around the world, but yeah, they look incredible. So I'd love to go watch Arsenal in Australia, man. So some people are saying that Calafiori and Gabriel should be the pair. You could do that. I personally wouldn't, because White and Timber can do that. What else? I think sort of got most of your. I mean, a lot of people are calling for this Calafiori centre back with, you know, a series of options at left back. I wouldn't do that. Yeah, a lot of people are mentioning it, but it's just not the approach I'd go for. But actually thinking about that now, I wouldn't start. I might do a short clip on this to go out on the channel, but I wouldn't start Calafiori in this game. Which might sound crazy to say. He's made the left back position his own almost immediately. But Zinchenko's fit now. I'd play Zinchenko in this game. Rest Calafiori. We know that he had like a little spell out because of a mini injury, and then he was kind of being brought in and out of the team. I would just give him a nice rest for this one, ready for Sunday. He's going to have a big game against Salah. But that's the other thing. I was saying that if Saliba was fit, that I'd have played Timber left back and White right back with Saliba and Gabriel. But Gabriel isn't available, because of the suspension. So yeah, Calafiori I actually didn't even have in mind to play Liverpool, but now that he's going to, I wouldn't play him for this game. I'd start Zinchenko left back. I will do a predicted 11 short, or like a preferred 11 short to come out. Yeah, I'll do that a little bit later to come out after this live stream. So go check out the shorts where we keep you up to date with Arsenal thoughts and news and stuff. Someone sent in their 11. JFO says Raya, White, Saliba, Kivior, Zinchenko, Jorginho, Merino, Trossard, Jesus, Havertz, Sterling is the 11 you'd go for. Fair enough, JFO. That's quite far from the 11 I'd go for. I agree with 1, 2, maybe 5 of those. But yeah, anyway, cool. I'm hiccuping. Let's go through other big things he said. So that was kind of the big one, really. On Odegaard and Saka, he said they are closer, both progressing really well. Martin is not fit with Bukayo. Let's see how he feels today and in the training session that we have later on. So again, they were checking if Bukayo Saka's fit. I think he's going to be fit. I think he'll be absolutely fine. I'm not potentially too worried about that. I think he'll be okay. And then Odegaard, again, both progressing well, but Martin's still not fit. I think he might be available for Newcastle or Chelsea. I just have a feeling that I didn't think this when we recorded the Goonerverse last week, but from the way Arteta's talking, I just get the feeling that Odegaard might be back a lot sooner than we first thought. Did you ask about our disciplinary record? Playing with 10 men, obviously there is an issue, he says. The truth is you analyse 3 very different actions and the outcome of them. The reason's very different. Regardless of that, we cannot continue to play with 10 men, especially at this level. You see how much of a struggle it is for all the teams to win football matches. When you want to do it with 10 men for 65 minutes, the task becomes impossible. So we need to eradicate that. It's clear why, the reasons, and how it doesn't matter. We have to focus. That it has to happen. Look, Arsenal 3 red cards in 8 games, while I actually think 2 of them were extremely harsh, the Rice and Trossard ones, it's just like unacceptable anyway. And maybe other teams aren't getting these red cards because they are that touch more disciplined and careful when it comes to these little things. We know that Arsenal quite like the dark arts, and that's fine. That's a part of the game that I love that we have. But, you know, then it becomes a point where it's like 3 and 8, though. That is quite a lot. Like, what are we doing wrong? Because other teams aren't finding themselves quite in this situation. Some people think we're refereed differently. I think we have been refereed differently in the past. As in, I think some decisions have been given to Arsenal that I've not seen from anyone else. I think I'll give you an example, right? I think I saw, and I might be remembering this wrong, but I think I saw Szoboszlai pull someone down yesterday, and it was a foul. I think he sort of just went in the back of them, and that could have been a yellow card. Then he booted the ball away, so that could have been a second. Now, I don't want 2 yellows dished out for that. It's football, for God's sake. What are we doing? But Martinelli, 2 yellows. So there's moments like that where I think, I don't know, man. Like, when are we ever going to see that double yellow in one action ever again? So I don't think we are, as a rule, refereed differently. I genuinely don't think there's any bias or corruption or anything like that. But I think we have been pretty unfortunate with some very unique decisions. I don't think this weekend with Saliba was an example of that. Only what I will say, and we all saw the Tosin Adabarioyo situation for Chelsea against Liverpool. Here's how I'd put it, right? I can understand why both could be a yellow, and I can understand why both would be a red. What is difficult for Arsenal fans to swallow, and this is coming from an Arsenal fan who thought that it was a right decision to send Saliba off, even with the VAR intervention, even with the clear and obvious line and all that. I was fine with it. I looked at that and I thought, I can't be mad at the officials here. They've ultimately come to what I think is the right decision, which is a red card for Saliba. But I look at the Tosin Adabarioyo one, right, where I don't know, it's not meant in the foul, but he actually lands on Jota and injures him pretty bad. He has to come off, right? So you can argue what he did was kind of worse, but maybe not from an actual denying a goal scoring action situation, right? But you look at those two and you go, is the difference between them really a yellow, which is basically you can play the rest of the match and just don't commit any more fouls, and a red, which is you're off for the whole game, and by the way, you're going to miss next week? With the difference in actions that big, this is where I think for certain things, the PGMOL do need to review the rules. I think Saliba, a fair punishment is Saliba is sent off, but he's not missing Liverpool. That feels crazy to me. That just feels so over the top for a decision that wasn't like a stonewall red, even though I lean towards it being a red. I think it is a red, but it wasn't like stonewall. It wasn't like completely undebatable. A lot of people who aren't Arsenal fans don't think it was a red. But Tosin got a yellow, and that seems really strange to me. Like, there is such a difference, which is why a lot of people don't like the sin bin rule. But I do like the sin bin rule because I like referees if they're not sure, if they're not quite, well, I can see what I said, I can see what I was trying. Just say, Saliba, listen, man, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. 15 minutes off the pitch. Then Arsenal come through that, and then they bring him back on. That's why I think a sin bin works really, really well. That's why I think a sin bin works brilliantly. But a lot of people don't like it because they think referees won't be able to manage that. I would rather a referee was too harsh on the yellows and got our player off the pitch for 10 minutes and also recognised they weren't 100% sure if something was a red card and so almost bottled it and went for a sin bin. I'd rather they had that middle ground where they're not completely sure, so they're not completely and utterly ruining the game. And then as fans, we're sat there going, well, you know, Sin being annoying that we conceded when we were down to 10 men for that 15 minutes, but it's only one part of the game. We have plenty of time with 11 to readdress it, all those other things, right? I just think you can stomach that a little bit better. And I actually think you make the referee's job easier, not harder. A lot of people think you make it harder because you're giving them more to do. But look, I'm in the minority with that. A lot of people think that sin bin is a disaster, but I think it's a good thing personally. Apparently, they're also testing the challenge system, which I'm also in favor of. But maybe that's kind of too much in one go. But yeah, sorry, a little bit of a tangent there. But just wanted to talk about what Arteta made of the discipline record, but also what the differences kind of were in those two big challenges there. I don't think there's a big enough difference. You know, one of them, for me, they look incredibly similar. One of them was a yellow card, finish the game, you're good for next week. And the other was, you're missing an hour of football today. Your team's going to play with 10 men. And by the way, you can't play next week against Liverpool. There's a massive disparity there, isn't there? That doesn't feel right. What do you guys think of that? Is a last man tackle 40 yards from goals really serious foul play? Yeah, it could be roles reversed. I think we want a red card for that. And I know that because when Saka was through against Villa and Consa did that to him, I think like 3-4 years ago, I remember we were calling for a red card, a lot of people. Jane says, issues that, James, they'll mess up something, will be a clear yellow, and they'll sin bin the player. Jen, but again, like, okay, you say that. So what's the worst that happens? They're off the pitch for 15 minutes. Like, at least the cost of their messing up isn't so drastic, if you get what I mean. But I hear you. I don't trust them to implement any of that perfectly either. We're kind of a few minutes away from rounding off. So let me just bring up one final thing that was brought up that I did want to speak about. Two quick things. On the consideration of when to start Nwaneri, I think it's identifying moments, understanding where he is, where the team is, and where the optimal moment to throw a player into that context. He's already done a lot in a very short period of time, so let's take it step by step and make sure those steps are consistent and can allow him to grow in the manner and form that we want him in the team. He's basically saying, guys, I will let you know when he's ready. That's what he's saying. He's saying, I will bring him in when I think he's ready. I think Nwaneri is ready. Arteta is with him 200, 300, 400 times more than that. He's with him. I don't watch any of this, nor am I a football coach or manager. So part of me has to trust Arteta's judgment on that. But while I think Arteta's much better placed, obviously, to judge whether, Nwaneri is ready to be playing minutes and football and get starts and all that, that's fine. I acknowledge that. But then I am in a perfectly legitimate place, in my opinion, as we all are as fans, to say, okay, but if you're deciding he's not ready, then why did Vieira and Smith Rowe go to the point where you're starting a hybrid 6-8 in the number 10 position? That's a fair question, which is why the pressure for me is kind of on Nwaneri to be ready, but that might not be fair on him. Let's see if he starts tomorrow. The only other thing that was brought up very quickly was something to do with Saliba and whether if there's a plan to appeal Saliba's red card. He says, I'll leave that more to the club to understand the circumstances as well as other examples that are very clear in the same position. They will have to decide that. I'm going to say this, okay? Because I like to be consistent. If that red card gets overturned, I'll be delighted because he's starting against Liverpool, Saliba. But that will be serious undermining of the referee and the VAR officials, which I don't rate them. So I'm all for them being completely undermined to a degree. But I remember when Bruno Fernandes won against Tottenham was overturned. I was really shocked by that because was it harsh? Yeah. I didn't think it was a red. I think it was an orange, yellow, sin bin, all that. But there was a sticking out of the leg, knowing he was not going to be anywhere near the ball. A lot of Man United fans were happy, acknowledged that, and went, yeah, I can see why that's. A lot of others didn't, but I could see why it was a red. Again, on the pitch, in the moment, if I'm the referee, I'm giving it a yellow because I don't want to ruin a game of football with something I'm not 100% sure is a red. But I could see absolutely why they ultimately we're giving a red for this, we're upgrading it. No, I think the referee gave the red, didn't they? And they didn't think it was clear and obvious. Which again, bringing the whole clear and obvious in the, inconsistencies, because they felt that wasn't clear and obvious, even though I think the Premier League or the PGMOL overturned it. But the Saliba one was clear and obvious. The yellow card did have to turn to a red. It's all confusing. I find myself contradicting myself, but this is because of the mess PGMR referees put us in. Yeah, I mean, RM saying your bar is so low for a sending off, James. You're missing my point. I wouldn't have sent off. Let's get rid of this. I wouldn't have sent off Bruno Fernandes. I just said I would have given a yellow, but I can understand why it was given, and they overturned it, which I thought was a really strange decision for them to actually, after the fact, say, yeah, we're overturning it. We're going to undermine our officials. I think if we get the Saliba one overturned, that would be staggering. I'd love it to be, but that would be, that would be pretty staggering. I don't expect that. Anyway, everyone, that's going to be Arteta's press conference, all on the Arsenal website. So credit to them if you want to go check it all out. But look, I'm going to leave it there. Very messy live stream. Apologies. Wanted to go through some of the main things he said, but also just give my thoughts on things like the comparison between what Tosin Adabarioyo did and what William Saliba did. Talk about the sort of game state, predicted 11, and how we're feeling going into this game. I hope you enjoyed the stream, everyone. I'll be back with a match report tomorrow, and I'll be live on FTV for the watch along with, I think it's Jordan and Turkey. So really excited to watch that. I know a lot of comments have come in. Big thank you to everyone. This one, for example, came in APT, but James, can you clear it up? Why is VL always received yellow cards, even if it's not rating to serious foul play? It's over now. Yeah, I mean, I sort of discussed that a little bit earlier. I hope it answered that. But let me know in the comment section below. I can always sort of do more content around it. And yeah, thank you everyone who's tuned in. I super appreciate it. Hit the like button. Is it the thumbs up thing going to work? It is. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this stream. And I'll see you all for the match report tomorrow. Check out a short coming out a little later today where I give you my predicted, or let's say the 11 I want to see for the game on Tuesday night. Shakhtar. I'm all over the place. Sorry, my brain's jumping around. Anyway, let's send it now before I ruin it. See you in a bit.